when the lights have gone down completely is when you would come on.
Okay.
With the music. With the music.
Got a second buttonhole for me, Phipps?
Yes, my lord.
Rather distinguished thing. You know, I'm the only person in London who wears a buttonhole at present.
Yes, my lord, I had observed that.
You see, Phipps, what is fashionable is what one wears oneself. What is unfashionable is simply what other people wear.
Yes, my lord.
Just as vulgarity is simply the conduct of other people.
Yes, my lord.
And falsehoods the truths of other people.
Yes, my lord.
Other people are quite dreadful. The only possible society is oneself.
Yes, my lord.
To love oneself is the beginning of a lifelong romance.
Yes, my lord.
I'm not quite sure I like this buttonhole, Phipps. Makes me look a little too old. Makes me look almost in the prime of my life, eh, Phipps?
I don't observe any alteration in your lordship's appearance.
You don't?
No, my lord.
I'm not quite sure. For the future, a more trivial buttonhole on a Tuesday evening, Phipps.
I shall speak to the florist, my lord. She's had a loss in the family lately, which may account for the lack of triviality your lordship complains of in the buttonhole.
Extraordinary thing about the lower classes in England, they are always losing their relations.
Yes, my lord, and they are extremely fortunate in that respect.
Any letters for me, Phipps?
3, my lord.
Have my cab round in 20 minutes.
Yes, my lord.
Oh, Phipps,
Yes, my lord.
when did this letter arrive?
It was brought by hand just after you left for the club.
That will do. Lady Chiltern's handwriting on Lady Chiltern's pink notepaper. That is rather a surprise. I thought Robin was to write. I wonder what she's got to say for herself. I want you, I trust you, I'm coming to you, Gertrude. I want you, I trust you, I'm coming to you. Then she has discovered everything. Poor woman, poor woman. What an hour to call? 10:30. I shall certainly have to give up going to the Berkshires this evening. Though it's always nice to be expected and never to arrive. I'm not expected at a bachelor's ball, so I shall certainly go there. I shall make her stand by her husband. It's the only thing for her to do. It's the only thing for any woman to do. The growth of moral sense in women is what makes marriage such a hopeless, one-sided institution. 10:30. She should be here soon. I'll have to tell Phipps I'm not into anyone else.
Lord Caversham.
Oh, why will my parents always appear at the wrong time? Some extraordinary mistake in their nature, I suppose. Delighted to see you, my dear father.
Take my coat.
Is it worthwhile, father?
Of course it is worthwhile, sir. Which is the most comfortable chair?
This one, father. It's the chair I use when I'm receiving guests.
Thank you. Ooh, no draught, I hope, in this room?
No, father.
Glad to hear it. Can't stand draughts. No draughts at home.
Good many breezes, though, father.
Eh? Want to have serious conversation with you, sir.
Really, father, at this hour?
Well, sir, it is only 10 o'clock. What is your objection to the hour? I think the hour is an admirable hour.
Well, I'm afraid it is not my day for talking seriously. I'm very sorry, it is not my day.
What do you mean, sir?
During the season, I only have a serious conversation on the first Tuesday of every month from the hours of 7 till 11.
Well, make it Tuesday, sir. Make it Tuesday.
It is after 7. My doctor told me not to have any serious conversations after 7. Makes me talk in my sleep.
Talk in your sleep? What does that matter? You're not married.
No, father, I'm not married.
That is what I have come to talk to you about. Now, you must get married, sir, and at once. Why, when I was your age, I had been an inconsolable widower for 3 months, and was already paying my addresses to your admirable mother. But damn it, sir, it is your duty to get married. You can't be always living for pleasure. Every man of position is married nowadays. Bachelors are not fashionable anymore. They are a damaged lot. Too much is known about them. You must get a wife. Look where your friend Robert Chiltern has got to by probity, hard work, and a sensible marriage with a good woman. Why don't you imitate him, sir? Why don't you take him for your model?
I think I shall, Father.
Oh, I wish you would. Then I should be happy. At present I make your mother's life miserable on your account. You are heartless, sir. Quite heartless.
I hope not, Father.
And it is high time that you got married. You are 34 years of age, sir.
Yes, Father, but I only admit to 32. 31 and a half when I have a really good buttonhole. This buttonhole is not trivial.
I tell you, you are 34 years of age, sir. And there is a draught in your room, besides, which makes your conduct worse. Why did you tell me there was no draught, sir? I feel a draught, sir. I feel it distinctly.
Yes, Father, there is a draft. I shall come and see you tomorrow, and we can talk about anything you like.
No, sir. I have called this evening for a definite purpose. And I'm going to see it through at all costs, to my health or yours. Put down my cloak, sir.
Yes, Father. Fitz, is there a good fire in the smoking room?
Yes, my lord.
Father, come in here. Your sneezes are quite heart-rending.
Well, I suppose I have a right to sneeze when I choose.
Yes, Father, I was merely expressing sympathy.
Oh, damn sympathy. There's a great deal too much of that sort of thing nowadays.
I agree, Father. If only there was less sympathy in the world, there'd be less trouble in the world.
That is a paradox, sir. I hate paradoxes.
Yes, me too, Father. Everyone meets these days as a paradox. Makes society so obvious. It is a great bore.
Do you always really understand what you say, sir?
Perhaps if I listen attentively.
If you listen attentively. Ah, conceited young pussy!
Phipps, there's a lady coming to see me on a particular matter this evening. When she arrives, show her into the drawing room. Do you understand?
Yes, my lord.
It's a matter of gravest importance, Phipps.
I understand, my lord.
Under no circumstances must envy us admitted. Do you understand?
I understand, my lord.
Good. Remember what I said. Into that room.
Yes, my lord.
Well, sir, am I to wait attendance upon you?
No, Father. Remember what I said. Into that room, Phipps.
Yes, my lord. Oh, what name, madam?
Is Lord Goring not here? I was told he was at home.
Lord Caversham, his lordship is actually with Lord Caversham at the moment, madam.
How very filial.
He told me to ask you if you would be kind enough to wait in the drawing room. His lordship will come to you there.
Lord Goring expects me.
Yes, madam.
Are you quite sure?
Well, he told me the lady called to show her into the drawing room. His directions on the matter were most precise.
How thoughtful of him. To expect the unexpected shows a thoroughly modern intellect. Oh, how dreary a bachelor's drawing room always looks. I shall have to alter all this. No, I don't care for that lamp. It will be far too glaring. Light some candles.
Certainly, madam.
I do hope the candles have very becoming shades.
We have had no complaints about them, madam, as yet.
Wonder what woman he's waiting for tonight. It will be delightful to catch him. Men always look so silly when they are caught, and they are always being caught. What a very interesting room. What a very interesting picture. Wonder what his correspondence is like. Oh, what a very uninteresting correspondence. Bills and cards, debts and dowagers. Who on earth writes to him on pink paper? How silly to write on pink paper. It looks like the beginning of a middle-class romance. Romance should never begin with sentiment. It should begin with silence and end with a settlement. I know that handwriting. That is Gertrude Chiltern's. I remember it perfectly. The 10 Commandments in every stroke of the pen, and the moral law all over the page. I wonder what Gertrude is writing to him about. Something horrid about me, I suppose. How I detest that woman. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you, Gertrude. I want you. I trust you. I am coming to you.
The candles in the drawing room are lit, madam, as you directed.
Thank you.
I trust their shades are to your liking. They are the most becoming we have. They are the same as his lordship uses when he's dressing for dinner.
Then I'm sure they will be perfectly right.
Thank you, madam.
Sarah.
Sorry.
Some young lady is handsome.
Well, the thing is, Father, if I am to get married, I should like to choose the time, place and person. Particularly the person.
That is a matter for me, sir. You would probably make a very poor choice. It is I who should be consulted, not you. There is property at stake. It is not a matter for affection. Affection comes later on in married life.
Yes, Father, affection comes later on in married life when two people thoroughly dislike each other, Father, doesn't it?
Certainly, sir. I mean, certainly not, sir. What I say is that marriage is a matter for common sense.
Yes, but women who have common sense are so curiously plain, aren't they, Father? Of course, I don't speak from hearsay.
No woman, plain or pretty, has any common sense at all. Common sense is the privilege of our sex.
Yes, and we men are so self-sacrificing that we never use it. Do we, Father?
I use it, sir. I use nothing else.
So my mother tells me.
It is the secret of your mother's happiness. You are heartless, sir. Very heartless.
I hope not, Father.
Arthur, what a piece of good luck meeting you here. Your servant had just told me you were not at home. How extraordinary.
The fact is, Robert, I am horribly busy tonight. I gave orders to my servant that I was not at home to anyone. My own father received a comparatively cold reception and complained of a draft the whole time.
You must be at home to me, Arthur. You are my best friend. Perhaps by this time tomorrow you will be my only friend. My wife has discovered everything.
Ah, I guessed as much.
Really? How?
Oh, maybe something from your expression as you walked in. Who told her?
Mrs. Cheveley herself. And now the woman I love knows that I began my career with an act of low dishonesty. That I built up my life upon sands of shame. And that I sold, like a common huckster, the secret entrusted to me as a man of honour. I thank heaven Lord Radley died before he could know I betrayed him. I wish to God I had died before I had fallen so low.
Have you heard nothing from Vienna in answer to your wire?
Yes, I received a telegram from the First Secretary at 8 o'clock tonight.
Well?
Nothing is absolutely known against her. In fact, on the contrary, she occupies a rather high position in society. It is a sort of open secret that Baron Arnheim left her the greater portion of his immense fortune. Beyond that, I can learn nothing.
So she doesn't turn out to be a spy then?
Spies are of no use nowadays. Their profession is over. The newspapers do their work for them instead.
And thunderingly well they do it.
Arthur, I'm parched with sass. May I ring for something? Some hock and seltzer?
Certainly, let me.
Arthur, I don't know what to do. But you are my best friend. You are my only friend. But what a friend you are. I can trust you completely, can't I?
Certainly. Phipps, some hock and seltzer?
Yes, sir.
Arthur, you must tell me what to do. My life has crumbled about me.
Phipps?
Yes, my lord.
Could you excuse me for one moment? I just need to give some instructions myself. Certainly. I don't think you're right. Tell her I've been called away. Tell her that I've been called out of town. Do you understand?
The lady is in that room, my lord. You told me to show us that room, my lord.
You're perfectly right. What a mess I'm in. No, I think I shall get through it. I shall give her a lecture through the door. Awkward thing to manage, though.
Arthur, you must tell me what to do. My life has crumbled about me. I'm a ship without a rudder in a night without a star.
You love your wife, don't you, Robert?
More than anything in the world. But I used to think ambition the great thing in the world, but it is not. Love is the great thing in the world, and I love her. But I am defamed in her eyes. I am ignoble in her eyes. There is a wide gulf between us now. She has found me out, Arthur. She has found me out.
Has she never in her life done some sin, some folly, that she should not forgive your sin?
My wife? Never. She would not know what weakness or temptation is. I am of clay like other men. She, like all women, stands apart, pitiless in her perfection, cold and stern, and without mercy. But I love her. Perhaps if we are childless, perhaps if we had had children, God would have been kinder to us. But God has granted us a lonely house, and she has cut my heart in two. But let us not talk of it. I was brutal to her this evening. But I suppose when sinners talk to saints, they are brutal always. I said things to her that were hideously true on my side, from my standpoint, from the standpoint of men. But let us not talk of that.
Your wife will forgive you. Perhaps, at this moment, she is forgiving you. She loves you. Why should she not forgive your sin?
God grant it. God grant it. But Arthur, there is something more I have to tell you.
I'll consult her, sir.
Thank you.
Did you bring your carriage here, Robert?
No, I walked from the club.
Phipps, Sir Robert will take my cab.
Yes, my lord.
You don't mind my sending you away, do you, Robert?
Arthur, you must let me stay for 5 more minutes. I have decided what I'm going to do in the house tonight. And the debate on the Argentine Canal begins at 11. What was that?
Nothing.
I heard a chair fall in the other room. Someone's been listening.
No, I tell you, there's nobody in that room.
Arthur, there is someone in that room. The door is ajar and the lights are on. Arthur, someone has been listening to every secret of my life. What does this mean?
Robert, you're excited and nerved. I tell you, there is no one in that room. Sit down, Robert.
You give me your word there is no one.
Yes.
Your word of honour?
Yes.
No, I must see who is in that room.
No.
Arthur, you have told me there is no one in there, so why should I not go in there? Arthur, let me know that no eavesdropper has heard every secret of my life.
Robert, that is enough. I've told you there is no one in that room. Robert, this must stop.
That is not enough. You have told me there is no one there, so what reason can you have for refusing me?
For God's sake, Robert, there is somebody in that room, someone whom you must not see.
I thought so.
I forbid you to enter that room.
Let me pass, sir. I must know who is in that room. I must know who it is to whom I have told my secret and my shame.
Great heavens, his own wife.
What explanation can you give me for the presence of that woman here?
Robert, on my honour, she came here to save you. She came here to see me.
She is a vile and infamous thing.
It is not true, Robert. For heaven, it is not true.
You are mad. What have I to do with her intrigues with you? Let her remain your mistress. You are well suited to each other. Her corrupt and shameful, you false as a friend, treacherous as an enemy even.
It is not true, Robert. Before heaven, it is not true. In your presence and hers, I will explain it all.
Stand aside, sir. You have relied enough upon your word of honour.
Good evening, Lord Goring.
Great heavens, Mrs. Cheevy. May I ask what you were doing in my drawing room?
Merely listening. I have a perfect passion for listening through keyholes. One always hears such wonderful things through them.
To Doesn't that sound rather like tempting Providence?
Oh, surely Providence can resist temptation by this time.
I'm glad you came. I am going to give you some good advice.
Oh, pray don't. One should never give a woman anything that she can't wear in the evening.
I see you're quite as willful as you used to be.
Far more. I have greatly improved. I've had more experience.
Too much experience is a dangerous thing. May I offer you a cigarette? Half the pretty women in London smoke cigarettes. Personally, I prefer the other half.
Thanks. I never smoke. My dressmaker wouldn't like it. And a woman's first duty in life is to her dressmaker, isn't it? What the second duty is, no one has as yet discovered.
You've come to sell me Robert Chiltern's letter, haven't you?
To offer it to you on conditions. How did you guess that?
Because you haven't mentioned it yet. Have you got it with you?
Oh no, a well-made dress has no pockets.
What is your price for it then?
How absurdly English you are. Why, the English think that a chequebook can solve every problem in life. Why, my dear Arthur, I have very much more money than you have, and quite as much as Robert Chiltern has got hold of. Money is not what I want.
Then what do you want?
Why don't you call me Laura?
I don't like the name.
You used to adore it.
Yes, that's why.
Arthur, you loved me once.
Yes.
And you asked me to be your wife.
That was the natural result of my loving you.
And you threw me over because you saw or said you saw poor old Lord Mortlake trying to have a violent flirtation with me in the conservatory at Tenby.
I was under the impression my lawyer had settled that matter on certain terms, dictated by yourself.
At the time I was poor. You were rich.
Yes, that is why you pretended to love me.
Poor old Lord Mortlake. He had only two topics of conversation, his gout and his wife. I never could quite make out which of the two he was talking about. He used the most horrible language about them both. Well, you were silly, Arthur. Why, Lord Mortlake was never anything more to me than an amusement. One of those utterly tedious amusements one only finds at an English country house on an English country Sunday. I don't think anyone at all morally responsible for what he or she does at an English country house.
Yes, I know lots of people think that.
Arthur, I loved you.
My dear Mrs. Cheveley, you're always far too clever to know anything about love.
I did love you, and you loved me. You know you loved me. And love is a very wonderful thing. I suppose that when a man has once loved a woman, he will do anything for her, except continue to love her.
Yes, except that.
I'm tired of living abroad. I want to come back to London. I want to have a charming house here. I want to have a salon. If one could only teach the English how to talk and the Irish how to listen, society here would be quite civilised. Besides, I have arrived at the romantic stage. When I saw you last night at the Chilterns, I knew you were the only person I had ever cared for, if I ever have cared for anybody, Arthur. And so, on the morning of the day you marry me, I will give you Robert Chiltern's letter. That is my offer. I will give it to you now if you promise to marry me.
Now?
Tomorrow.
Are you really serious?
Yes, quite serious.
I should make you a very bad husband.
I don't mind bad husbands. I've had to. They amuse me immensely.
You mean you've amused yourself immensely, don't you?
What do you know about my married life?
Nothing, but I can read you like a book.
What book?
The Book of Numbers!
Do you think it is quite charming of you to be so rude to a woman in your own house?
In the case of very well-dressed women, sex is a challenge, not a defence.
I suppose that is meant for a compliment. Women are never disarmed by compliments, Arthur. Men always are. That is the difference between the two sexes.
Women are never disarmed by anything, as far as I know them.
Then you are going to allow your greatest friend, Robert Chiltern, to be ruined, rather than marry someone who really has considerable attractions left. I thought you would have risen to some great height of self-sacrifice, Arthur. I think you should. And the rest of your life you can spend contemplating your imperfections.
Oh, I do that as it is. And self-sacrifice is a thing that should be brought down by law. It always makes one go to the bad, so demoralising to one's self-sacrifice for.
As if anything could demoralise Robert Chiltern. You seem to forget that I know his real character.
What you know about Robert Chiltern is not his real character. It was an act of folly done in his youth. Shameful, I admit. Dishonourable, I admit. Unworthy of him, I admit. And therefore, not his true character.
How you men stand up for each other.
How you women war against each other.
I only war against one woman, against Gertrude Chiltern. I hate her. I hate her now more than ever.
Because you brought real tragedy into her life, I suppose.
There is only one real tragedy in a woman's life. The fact that her past is always her lover, and her future invariably her husband.
Lady Chiltern knows nothing of the life to which you are alluding.
A woman whose size in gloves is 7 3/4 never knows much about anything. You know that Gertrude has always worn 7 3/4. That is one of the many reasons why there was never any moral sympathy between us. Well, Arthur, I suppose this romantic interview may be regarded as at an end. You admit it was romantic, don't you? For the privilege of being your wife, I was ready to surrender a great prize, the climax of my diplomatic career. You decline. Very well. If Sir Robert does not uphold my Argentine scheme, I expose him, voile too.
You mustn't! That would be vile, horrible, infamous!
Oh, don't use big words. They mean so little. It is a commercial transaction, that is all. There is no good mixing up sentimentality in it. I offer to sell Robert Chiltern a certain thing. If he won't pay me my price, he will have to pay the world a greater price. There is no more to be said. I must go. Goodbye. Won't you shake hands?
With you? No. Your transaction with Robert Chiltern may be a loathsome commercial transaction, of a loathsome commercial age. But you forget you came here tonight to talk of love. You, whose lips desecrated the word love. You to whom the things of a book closely sealed. You went to see this afternoon to the house of one of the most noble and gentle women in the world, to degrade her husband in her eyes, put bitterness in her heart and poison in her soul, to break her eye and maybe spoil her soul. For that I cannot forgive you. That would be horrible. For that there can be no forgiveness.
Arthur, you are unjust to me. Believe me, you are quite unjust to me. I didn't go to taunt Gertrude at all. I had no idea of doing anything of the kind when I entered. I called with Lady Markby simply to ask whether an ornament, a jewel that I had lost somewhere last night, had been found at the Chilterns. If you don't believe me, you can ask Lady Markby. She will tell you it is true. The scene that occurred happened after Lady Markby had left and was really forced on me by Gertrude's rudeness and sneers. I called, a little out of malice, if you like, but really to ask whether a diamond brooch of mine had been found. That was the origin of the whole thing.
A diamond snake brooch with a ruby?
Yes, how do you know?
Because it is found. In fact, I found it myself and stupidly forgot to tell the butler anything about it before I left. It's in this drawer. Won't you wear it?
Oh, I'm so glad to get it back. It was a present. I'll wear it if you pin it in.
Certainly allow me.
What are you doing? Why do you put it on as a bracelet? I don't understand.
It can also be used as a bracelet.
It looks very well on me as a bracelet, doesn't it?
Looks much better than when I saw it last.
Well, when did you see it last?
Oh, 10 years ago on Lady Berkshire, from whom you stole it.
Well, what do you mean?
I mean, you stole that ornament from my cousin, Mary Berkshire, to whom I gave it when she was married 10 years ago.
Oh, it is not true.
Disgrace fell on a wretched servant who was sent away in disgrace.
It is
I
not...
discovered it last night and resolved to say nothing to anybody until I discovered the thief. Now I have discovered the thief and heard her own confession.
It is not true.
Why, you know it is true. Why, thief is written across your face at this very moment.
I will deny the whole affair from beginning to end. I will say that I have never seen this wretched thing, that it was never in my possession. God!
The thing about stealing something so wonderful is that one never knows how wonderful the thing one steals is. To remove it, you must know where the spring is. I see you don't know where the spring is. It is rather difficult to find.
You brute! You coward!
Oh, don't use big words. They mean so little.
What are you going to do?
I am going to ring for my servant. He's an admirable servant, always comes when I ring. And he is going to get the police.
The police? What for?
Well, the barges are going to prosecute you tomorrow. That's what the police are for.
Don't do that. I will do anything you want, anything in the world you want.
Give me Robert Chiltern's letter.
Oh, stop. Let me have time to think.
Give me Robert Chiltern's letter.
I have not got it with me. I will give it to you tomorrow.
You know you're lying. Give it to me at once. This is it?
Yes.
For such a clever woman, such a well-dressed woman, you are such a clever woman. My congratulations.
Please get me a glass of water.
Certainly, let me.
Oh, thank you. Will you help me on with my cloak?
Certainly.
Thank you. I'm never going to try to harm Robert Chiltern again.
Fortunately, you won't have the chance.
Well, if even I had the chance, I wouldn't. On the contrary, I'm going to render him a great service.
I am charmed to hear it. It is a reformation.
Yes, I can't bear so honourable a gentleman, so upright a English gentleman being so shamefully deceived, and so...
Well?
I find that somehow Gertrude Chiltern's dying speech and confession has strayed into my dress.
What do you mean?
I mean, I'm going to send Robert Chiltern the love letter his wife wrote to you tonight.
Love letter?
I want you. I trust you. I'm coming to you, Gertrude.
You wretched woman! Must you always be thieving? Give that letter to me once, or I shall take it by force. I shall not leave until I've got it back.
Oh, Lord Goring merely rang that you should show me out. Good night, Lord Goring.
Great nuisance. I can't find anyone in this house to talk to. I'm so full of interesting information. I feel like the latest edition of something or other.
Sir Robert is at the Foreign Office, my lord.
Lady Chiltern not down yet?
Her ladyship has not yet left her room. Miss Chiltern has come in from riding.
Ah, that is something.
Lord Caversham has been waiting in the library for some time for Sir Robert. I told him your lordship was here.
Thank you. Would you kindly tell him I've gone?
I shall do so, my lord.
Really, I can't be seeing my father 3 days in a row. There's a great deal too much excitement for any son. Father should be neither seen nor heard. That's the only proper basis of family life. Mothers are different. Mothers are darlings.
Well, sir, what are you doing here? Wasting your time as usual, I suppose.
Dear father, when one pays a visit, it's not for the purpose of wasting one's own time, but someone else's.
Have you been thinking over what I spoke to you about last night?
I've been thinking about nothing else.
Engaged to be married yet?
Not yet, but I plan to be before lunchtime.
You can have till dinner time, if it would be of any convenience to you.
Thanks, but I'd rather be engaged before lunch.
Never know when you're serious or not.
Neither do I, father.
I suppose you have read the Times this morning?
Good heavens, no. What's it say?
What should it say, sir? Chiltern's speech last night on this Argentine canal scheme was one of the finest pieces of oratory ever delivered in the House since Canning.
Ah, never heard of Canning. And did Robert uphold the scheme?
Uphold it, sir? How little you know him. Why, he denounced it roundly and the whole system of modern political finance. This speech is the turning point in his career. As the Times points out, you should read this article, sir. Sir Robert Chiltern, most rising of our young statesmen, brilliant orator, well-known integrity of character, represents what is best in English public life. Noble exception to the lax morality so common amongst foreign politicians, they will never say that of you, sir.
No, Father, they shan't. But I'm very pleased to hear what you tell me about Robert. It shows he's got pluck.
Oh, he has got more than pluck, sir. He has got genius.
I prefer pluck. It's not so common nowadays as genius is.
I wish you would go into Parliament, sir.
I can't, I'm far too young.
I hate this affectation of youth. It is a great deal too prevalent nowadays.
Youth isn't affectation. Youth is an art.
Why don't you propose to that pretty Miss Chilton?
I should like to, but I'm of a very nervous disposition in the mornings.
I don't suppose there is the smallest chance of her accepting you.
Then how the betting stands today?
If she did accept you, she would be the prettiest fool in England.
That is exactly the sort of woman I should like to marry. A thoroughly sensible woman would reduce me to a condition of absolute idiocy in less than 6 months.
You don't deserve her, sir.
My dear father, if we men married the women we deserve, we should have a very bad time of it.
How do you, Lord Caversham? And I hope Lady Caversham is quite well.
Oh, Lady Caversham is as usual. As usual.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
And are Lady Caversham's bonnets all better?
They have had a serious relapse, I am sorry to say.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
I hope an operation will not be necessary.
If it is, we shall have to give Lady Caversham a narcotic. Otherwise she would never consent to have a feather touched.
Good morning, Miss Mabel.
Oh, are you here? You do realise that after your breaking your appointment with Park this morning, I'm never going to speak to you again.
Oh, please don't, Miss Mabel. You're the only person in London I like to have to listen to me.
Lord Goring, I never believe a single word either one of us says to each other.
You are quite right, my dear, quite right. As far as he is concerned, I mean.
Do you think you could get your son to behave a little better? Occasionally, just as a change?
I regret to say, Miss Chilton, that I have no influence at all over my son. I wish I did. If I did, I know what I would make him do.
Yes, he has one of those terribly weak natures that are not susceptible to influence.
He is very heartless. Very heartless.
Seems to me I'm a little in the way here.
It's very good for you to be in the way and hear what people say about you behind your back.
I don't like hearing what people say about me behind my back. It makes me far too conceited.
After that, my dear, I really must bid you good morning.
You're not going to leave me all alone with Lord Goring, especially at such an early hour in the day.
Oh, I'm afraid I can't take him with me to Downing Street. It is not the Prime Minister's day for seeing the unemployed.
People who don't keep their appointments in the park are horrid.
Detestable.
I'm glad you admit it, but I wish you wouldn't sound so pleased about it.
I can't help it. I'm always pleased when I'm with you, Miss Mabel.
I suppose it's my duty to remain with you.
I suppose it is.
Well, my duty is a thing that I never do on principle. I find it always depresses me, so I must leave.
Please don't. There's something I want to ask you.
Oh, this is a proposal!
Well, yes it is. I'm bound to say it is.
I'm so glad. That makes it the second today.
Second today? Which impertinent ass has been conceited enough to propose to you before I had proposed to you?
Why, Tommy Trafford, of course. It's one of Tommy's days for proposing. He always proposes on Tuesdays and Thursdays during the season.
Tommy's a silly little ass. Bother Tommy Trafford. I love you.
I know, Arthur, and I think you might have mentioned it before. I'm sure I've given you heaps of opportunities.
Oh, Mabel, do be serious. Please be serious.
Oh, that's the sort of thing a man always says to a girl before he's been married to her. He never says it afterwards.
Mabel, I love you. Can't you love me a little in return?
Oh, you silly Arthur. If you knew anything about anything, which you don't, you would know that I adore you. I've been telling all of London that I adore you. It's a public scandal the way I adore you. I've been telling the whole of society for the last 6 months that I adore you. I wonder you consent to have anything left to say to me at all. I have no character left at all. At least I feel so happy that I'm sure I have no character left at all.
Oh, darling. Mwah. You know, I'm so awfully afraid of being refused.
But no one ever has has refused you yet, have they, Arthur? I can't imagine anyone refusing you.
And you do know I'm not nearly good enough for you.
Oh, I was totally afraid that you were.
And I'm a little over 30.
Darling, you're a big slender.
How sweet of you to say so. And it's only fair to tell you that, frankly, I'm fearfully extravagant.
But so am I, Arthur, so we're bound to agree. Now, I must go and see Gertrude.
Oh, please tell her that I want to speak to her particularly. I'm waiting here all the morning to speak to either her or Robert.
You mean you didn't come here expressly to propose to me?
No, that was a flash of genius.
Your first.
My last.
I'm delighted to hear it. Now, don't stir, I shan't be 5 minutes. And don't fall into any temptations whilst I'm away.
My dear Mabel, while you're away there are none. Makes me so horribly dependent on you.
Good morning, Mabel. How pretty you are looking.
And how pale you are looking, Gertrude. It is most becoming.
Good morning, Lord Goring.
Good morning, Miss Lady Chiltern.
I shall be in the conservatory under the second palm tree to the left.
The usual palm tree.
Yes, the usual palm tree.
Mrs. Chiltern, Lady Chiltern, beg your pardon. I have a certain amount of very good news for you. Mrs. Cheveley gave me up Robert's letter last night, and I destroyed it. Robert is safe.
Safe? Oh, I'm so glad of that. What a good friend you are to him and to us.
In fact, there is only one person who could be said to be in any danger now.
Who's that?
Yourself.
I, in danger? What do you mean?
Danger is too great a word. It is a word I should not have used. But I admit I have something to tell you that may distress you, that terribly distresses me. Last night you wrote me a very beautiful, womanly letter asking me for my help. You wrote to me as your oldest friend, as your husband's oldest friend. Mrs. Cheveley took that letter from my rooms.
Well, what use is it to her? Why should she not have it?
To be quite frank with you, Lady Chiltern, Mrs. Cheveley puts a certain construction on the letter. I propose to forward it to your husband today.
But what construction could she put on it? Oh! Not that. Not that. If I, in trouble, wanting your help, propose to come to you, that you may advise me, assist me. Oh, are there women so horrible as that? And she proposes to send it to my husband? Tell me what happened. Tell me all that happened.
Last night, Mrs. Cheveley concealed herself in a room in my drawing room. Robert came in unexpectedly. I thought the woman waiting for me to see me was yourself. Robert heard a chair or something fall in the room and went in there and discovered Mrs. Cheveley. I still thought the person was yourself. We had a terrible scene and left me in anger. At the end of everything, Mrs. Cheveley got possession of the letter. She stole it, when or how, I don't know.
At what hour did this happen?
At 10:30, and now I propose we tell your husband everything.
You want me to tell my husband that the woman whom you expected in your house last night was not Mrs. Cheveley, but myself? That it was I who was concealed in a room at her house at 10:30 at night? You want me to tell him that?
Yes.
Oh, I couldn't. I couldn't.
May I?
No.
Lady Chiltern, you are wrong.
No. The letter must be intercepted, that is all. But how can we do it? Letters arrive to him every moment of the day. His secretaries open them and hand them to him. I dare not ask the servants to hand me his letters. It would be impossible. Why don't you tell me what to do?
Pray be calm, Lady Chiltern, and ask the questions I'm going to put to you. You said his secretaries open his letters for him.
Yes.
Who is with him today? Mr. Trafford, isn't it?
No, Mr. Montfort, I think.
You trust him?
How should I know?
He would do what you asked him, wouldn't he?
I think so.
He would be able to recognise the letter without reading it, wouldn't he? By the colour.
I suppose so.
And I will go and see him myself and tell him that a certain letter, written on pink paper, is to be forwarded to Robert today. Under no circumstances must it reach him. Robert's coming down the stairs now, and he has the letter in his hand. It is too late.
You saved his life. What have you done with mine?
I want you, I trust you, I am coming to you. Gertrude. But my love, it is true. Do you indeed want me and trust me? If so, it was for me to come to you, not for you to write of coming to me. This letter of yours, Gertrude, makes me feel that nothing the world can do can hurt me now. You want me, Gertrude?
Yes.
You trust me, Gertrude?
Yes.
Why did you not add that you loved me?
Because I loved you.
When Montfort passed me this letter across the table, he opened it by mistake, I suppose, without reading it. And I read it. I did not care what public disgrace and shame was in store for me. I only cared that you loved me still.
But Robert, there is no disgrace in store for you, nor any public shame. Mrs. Cheveley has handed over to Lord Goring the document which was in her possession, and he has destroyed it. You are safe.
You're certain of this, Gertrude?
Yes, Lord Goring has just told me.
Then I am safe. Oh, what a wonderful thing to be safe. For 2 days I've been in terror now, and now I'm safe. How did Arthur destroy my letter? Tell me.
He tore it up.
Oh, how I wish I could have seen the one sin of my youth ripped to shreds. How many men there are in modern life who would like to see their past destroyed before them. Is Arthur still here?
Yes, he's in the conservatory.
I'm so glad I made the speech last night in the House, so glad. I made it thinking that public disgrace would be the result, but it has not been so.
Public honour has been the result.
I think so. I fear so almost. Although I am safe from detection, although every proof against me has been destroyed, I suppose, Gertrude, I should retire from public life.
Oh, yes, Robert. You should do that. It is your duty to do that.
It will be much to sacrifice.
No, it will be much to gain.
And you would have no problem living somewhere alone with me, abroad perhaps, or somewhere in the country, far from London. You would have no regrets.
None, Robert.
What about your ambition for me? You used to be ambitious for me.
My ambition. I have none now, but that we two may love each other. It was your ambition that led you astray. Let us not talk of ambition.
Oh, Arthur, how very much I owe you. However can I repay you?
Well, at the present moment, under the usual palm tree, I mean, in the conservatory.
Lord Caversham!
While my father always appeared at the wrong time. It's very heartless, very heartless indeed.
Good morning, Lady Chiltern. Warmest congratulations to you, Chiltern, on your brilliant speech last night. I have just left the Prime Minister, and you are to have the vacant seat in Cabinet.
A seat in the Cabinet?
Yes. Here is the Prime Minister's letter.
A seat in the Cabinet!
And well, you deserve it too. You have got what we most want in political life. High character, high moral tone, high principles. Everything you have not got, sir, and will have.
No, Father, I don't like principles. I prefer prejudices.
I'm afraid I cannot accept this offer, Lord Caversham. I have made up my mind to decline it.
Decline it?
Yes, I intend to retire from public life at once.
Decline a seat in Cabinet and retire from public life? I have never heard such damn nonsense in the entire course of my existence. I beg your pardon, Lady Chiltern. Chiltern, I beg your pardon. Don't grin like that, sir.
No, Father.
Lady Chiltern, you are a sensible woman. The most sensible woman in London. The most sensible woman I know. Would you kindly prevent your husband from taking such... Will you kindly do that, Lady Chiltern?
I think my husband is right in his determinations, Lord Caversham. I approve of it.
You approve it? Good heavens!
I admire him for it. I admire him immensely for it. I've never admired him so much before. He's finer than even I thought he was. You will go now, won't you, Robert, and write to the Prime Minister? Don't hesitate about it.
I suppose I should write at once. Chances like this are not repeated. If you will excuse me a moment, Lord Caversham.
I may come with you, Robert, may I not?
Yes, Gertrude.
What is the matter with this family? Something wrong here, eh? Idiocy? Hereditary, I suppose. Both of them, too. Wife as well as husband. Very sad. Very sad indeed. And they are not an old family. Oh, can't understand it.
I can assure you, Father, it is not idiocy.
What is it then, sir?
Well, I believe it's what's called nowadays a high moral tone, that is all.
Can't stand these newfangled terms. Same thing we called idiocy 50 years ago. Shan't stay in this house any longer.
Father, just wait a moment. There is someone I want you to speak to.
About what, sir?
Well, at the present moment in the conservatory, under the usual palm tree, there is someone I want you to speak to.
About what, sir?
About me, Father.
Not a subject on which much eloquence is possible.
No, Father, but the lady is like me and finds eloquence in others a little too loud. Lady Chiltern, why are you playing Mrs. Cheveley's cards?
Lord Goring, I don't understand you.
Mrs. Cheveley made an attempt to ruin your husband by forcing to adopt a dishonourable position or making him retire from public life. From the former you have saved him, from the latter you are now thrusting upon him. Why do the wrong that Mrs. Cheveley tried to do and failed?
Lord Goring.
Last night you wrote me a letter asking me for my help and asking me to trust you. Now's the moment when you really want my help. Now's the moment when you must trust me, trust in my counsel and judgment. You love Robert. Do you want to kill his love for you? What sort of existence would he have if he was forced from public life, if you robbed him of the fruits of the ambitions of his political career, closed the doors of public life against him and condemned him to sterile failure? He who was made for triumph and success. Women are not meant to punish us, but to forgive us when we need forgiveness. Pardon, not punishment, is their mission. Why scourging with rods for a sin done in his youth, before he knew you, before he knew himself? Men's lives are of greater value than women's. They have wider scope, larger scale, greater ambitions. Women's lives revolve around curves of emotions. It's on lines of intellect that a man's life progresses. Do not make any terrible mistake, Lady Chiltern. A woman who can love her man and keep his love for him has done all the world should want of her, or should ever want of her.
But it is my husband himself who wishes to retire from public life. It was he who first said so. He feels it is his duty.
Rather than lose your love, Robert would do anything. Wreck his whole career as he's on the brink of doing now. He would for you make a terrible sacrifice. Do not accept such a sacrifice. If you do, you will live to repent it bitterly. We men and women are not meant to make such sacrifices for each other. We are unworthy of them. Besides, Robert's been punished enough.
We've both been punished. I set him up too high.
For that reason now, do not set him down too low. If he has fallen from his altar, do not thrust him into the mire. Failure would be the very mire of shame to Robert. He would lose everything, even his ability to feel love. Robert's love is in your hands. Robert's life is in your hands. Don't mar both for him.
Here is the draft of my letter, Gertrude. Shall I read it to you?
Let me see it.
What are you doing?
A man's life is of greater value than a woman's. Greater aims, wider ambition. Our lives revolve in cursive emotion. It's upon lines of intellect that a man's life progresses. I've just learnt this and much else from it. From Lord Goring. And I will not spoil your life for you, Robert, not see you spoil it for me as a sacrifice, a useless sacrifice.
Gertrude, Gertrude.
You can forget. Men easily forget. And we forgive. That is how women help the world. I see that now.
My wife, my wife. I owe you much.
This is Lady Chiltern to whom you owe.
What was it you were going to ask me just before Lord Caversham came in?
Well, at the present moment in the conservatory is your sister, and as you are her guardian, I ask for your consent to marrying her.
Oh, I'm so glad. I'm so glad.
Thank you, Lady Chiltern.
My sister to be your wife?
Yes.
I'm really sorry, Arthur, but it is entirely out of the question. I have Mabel's future happiness to think about, and I don't think her happiness is safe in your hands. And I will not have her sacrificed.
Sacrifice?
Yes, utterly sacrificed. There is nothing worse than a loveless marriage. Well, except a marriage where there is love, but on one side only. Devotion, but on one side only. Faith, but on one side only. And in which of the two hearts one is sure to be broken.
What do you mean?
Do you really need me to tell you?
Yes.
As you wish. When I called upon you last evening, I found Mrs. Cheveley concealed in your room. It was between 10 and 11 o'clock at night. I need say nothing more. Your intrigues with Mrs. Cheveley have, well, as I said last night, nothing whatsoever to do with me. But you spoke to me of her as a woman pure and stainless, a woman you respected and honoured. That may be so, but I cannot give my sister's life into your hands. It would be wrong of me. It would be unjust, infamously unjust to her.
But I love Mabel. No other woman has any place in my heart.
I cannot do it.
Robert, it was not Mrs. Cheveley whom Lord Goring expected last night.
Not Mrs. Cheveley? Then who?
Lady Chiltern.
It was your own wife, Robert. Yesterday afternoon, Lord Goring told me that if ever I was in trouble, that I could come to him for help, as he was our oldest and best friend. Later on, after that terrible scene in this room, I wrote to Lord Goring, telling him that I wanted him, I trusted him, and that I was coming to him for his help and advice. Yes, that letter. I did not go to Lord Goring's in the end. I believed that it was from ourselves alone that help could come. Pride made me think that. Mrs. Cheveley went. She stole my letter, and she sent it to you anonymously, that you should think... Oh, I cannot tell you what she wished you to think.
What? Had I fallen so low in your eyes that you thought even for a moment I could doubt your goodness? Gertrude, you are to me the white image of all good things, and sin could never stain you. Arthur, you may go to Mabel, and you have my blessing.
I'm glad to hear it.
But wait a moment. There is no name on this letter. There should be a name. Mrs. Cheveley seems to have not noticed that.
Let me write yours. It is you that I trust and need. You and no one else.
Well, I really think I should have my letter back.
No, you shall have Mabel.
Well, I hope she hasn't changed her mind. It's been 20 minutes since I saw her last.
Lord Goring, I find your father's conversation much more improving than your own. I only speak to Lord Caversham in the future, and always on unusual country.
Darling.
What does this mean? You don't mean to say that this charming, clever young lady has been so foolish as to accept you?
Yes, she has, and Robert's been wise enough to accept a seat in the cabinet.
Oh, I am glad to hear that. I congratulate you, sir. If the country doesn't go to the dogs or the radicals, we shall have you Prime Minister.
Luncheon is on the table, my lady.
You will stop to luncheon, won't you, Lord Caversham?
Oh, with pleasure. And afterwards I shall drive you down to Downing Street, Chiltern. You have a great future before you. A great future. Which is more than can be said for you, sir. Your career will have to be entirely domestic.
Yes, Father, I prefer it domestic.
And if you don't make this young lady an ideal husband, I'll cut you off with a shilling.
An ideal husband? Oh, I don't think I should like that. It sounds like something from the next world.
What do you want him to be then, dear?
He can be as he chooses. All I want to be is a real wife to him.
Upon my word, there is a good deal of common sense in that. Lady Chiltern.
Gertrude, is it love you feel for me, or is it pity merely?
It is love, Robert. Love and only love. For both of us, a new life is beginning.